The stars were cold and silent in the outer reaches of the Sol system. Near the great gas giant that humans call Jupiter, 47 warships held their position in perfect formation. Their dark hulls gleamed under distant starlight, and their weapons were fully charged and ready for war. Commander Vexari stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Blade, watching the tactical display with deep satisfaction. He was tall for a Kethrani, with hard gray skin and 4 arms crossed behind his back. His large black eyes reflected the glow of dozens of small lights on the display. Each light represented one of his warships. Together, they formed the largest invasion fleet the Kethrani Dominion had ever sent against a single species. "Status report," Vexari said, his voice clicking and sharp dot his tactical officer. A younger Kethrani named Drelmos turned from his console. "All ships report ready, Commander. Weapons are charged. Shields are at full power. The fleet awaits your orders." Vexari allowed himself a small moment of pride. This was the moment he had waited for his entire career. The Kethrani Dominion had conquered 32 species across the galaxy. They had built an empire that stretched across 1,000 star systems. And now, they would add humanity to their collection. The humans had been discovered 60 cycles ago, just as they were taking their first steps into faster-than-light travel. The Dominion had watched them carefully. They had studied their primitive technology. They had analyzed their divided governments and their constant small wars. And when the time was right, they had sent a diplomatic ship to deliver a simple message: submit, pay tribute, become a vassal state of the Kethrani Dominion, or face destruction. The humans had refused. Vexari still remembered the shock that ran through the Dominion's leadership when the news arrived. No species had ever refused. The smart ones looked at the Dominion's military power and made the logical choice. The foolish ones tried to fight and were quickly crushed. But none had ever simply said no and then gone back to their daily lives as if the Dominion did not matter. It was insulting. It was arrogant. And it would be punished. "Commander," Drelmo said, "our long-range sensors are detecting movement from the 3rd planet." Vexari turned his attention to the display. A small blip was moving away from Earth, heading in their direction. Just one blip. One single contact. "How many ships?" he asked. Drelmos checked his readings twice before answering. "1 ship, Commander." "The humans are sending 1 ship." The bridge fell silent for a moment. Then Vexari began to laugh. It was a harsh sound, like stones grinding together, and soon other officers joined him. "1 ship," Vexari said, shaking his head. "They send 1 ship against 47. Do they think this is a negotiation? Do they think we will be impressed by their bravery?" "Perhaps they wish to surrender in person," one of his officers suggested. "Perhaps," Vexari agreed. "Or perhaps they are simply too stupid to understand what they face. Either way, it does not matter. We will destroy their little ship, and then we will proceed to their homeworld. Far away, on the blue and green planet called Earth, Admiral Katie Morgan stood in the command center of United Earth Navy headquarters. She was a small woman with short gray hair and sharp blue eyes that missed nothing. Around her, dozens of officers worked at their stations, tracking the alien fleet and coordinating humanity's response. "The Kethrani fleet is holding position near Jupiter," a young officer reported. 47 confirmed warships. "They have not moved since arriving 6 hours ago." Katie nodded slowly. She had expected this. The aliens were waiting, probably expecting humanity to panic or send desperate pleas for mercy. They did not understand that humanity had been preparing for this moment for 30 years. When the first Kethrani scout ships were detected decades ago, Earth's governments had made a secret decision. They would not reveal their true capabilities. They would appear weak and divided. They would let the aliens believe whatever they wanted to believe. And in the shadows, they would build. They would build weapons unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The door behind her opened, and Captain Ben Harris walked in. He was in his early 40s, with a strong jaw and calm brown eyes. He wore the deep blue uniform of the United Earth Navy, and on his chest was a single silver pin shaped like an iron shield. "Admiral," he said, saluting. "You wanted to see me?" Katie turned to face him. "Ben, the time has come. The aliens are here, and they have brought their entire invasion fleet. We need to send them a message they will never forget." Ben nodded. He had known this day would come. He had trained for it. Every member of his crew had trained for it. "The ironclad is ready, Admiral. We have been ready for 5 years. One ship against 47, Katie said quietly. Some people on the council think we should send more. They think we should overwhelm the aliens with numbers. With respect, Admiral, that would miss the point entirely." Katie smiled. It was a cold smile, the kind that did not reach her eyes. "Exactly. We do not want to win a battle, Ben. We want to make sure there is never another battle. We want every species in this galaxy to look at what happens today and understand something very clearly." "And what is that, Admiral?" "That humanity is not prey. We are not victims. We are not a species that begs for mercy or hopes for peace." She stepped closer to him, her voice dropping to almost a whisper. "We are the species that spent 10,000 years learning how to kill each other. We are the species that split atoms and engineered plagues and built weapons that could end all life on our planet. And we did all of that just to fight ourselves." She placed a hand on his shoulder. "Now show them what happens when we stop fighting each other and start fighting together. Show them what we really are." Ben felt a chill run down his spine, but he kept his face steady. "Understood, Admiral. We will make them understand." He turned and walked out of the command center, heading for the shuttle that would take him to his ship. Behind him, Katie Morgan watched him go. Then she turned back to the main display, where the 47 alien warships waited in the darkness of space. They had no idea what was coming. In orbit above Earth, hidden behind the moon where no alien sensor could detect it, the USS Ironclad waited in silence. It was not a ship in any normal sense of the word. It was a monster. It was a mountain of metal and weapons and power, built by a species that had decided it would never be threatened again. And in just a few hours, the galaxy would see it for the first time. Nothing would ever be the same. Captain Ben Harris walked through the massive corridors of the ironclad, his boots echoing on the metal floor. All around him, crew members moved with purpose. Some carried equipment. Others checked systems at wall panels. Everyone knew what was about to happen, and everyone was ready. The ship was so large that it had its own internal transport system. Small vehicles moved through wide tunnels, carrying people and supplies from one section to another. Ben had served on many ships during his 20-year career, but nothing had prepared him for the ironclad. It was less like a ship and more like a floating city. He reached the main bridge after a 10-minute walk from the shuttle bay. The bridge itself was enormous, with high ceilings and dozens of stations arranged in a half-circle around a central command platform. Massive view screens covered the front wall, currently showing a live image of stars and the distant shape of Jupiter. "Captain on the bridge," someone announced, and every officer stood in attention. "At ease," Ben said, climbing the steps to his command chair. "Status report." His first officer, Lisa Cole, stepped forward. She was tall and athletic, with dark skin and her hair pulled back in a tight braid. She had served with Ben for 8 years, and he trusted her completely. "All systems are green, Captain. The crew is at battle stations. Engineering reports the main reactor is running at optimal levels. Weapons are charged and ready." She paused and then added, "We are ready to show ourselves." Ben sat down in his chair and looked at the view screen. Somewhere out there, 47 alien warships were waiting. They thought they were the hunters. They had no idea they were about to become something else entirely. Navigation, Ben said. Set course for the alien fleet. Standard approach speed. Aye, Captain, Navigation Officer Amy Scott replied. She was young, barely 30, but she was one of the best pilots in the entire fleet. Her fingers moved across her console. Course laid in. We will reach weapons range in approximately 2 hours. Take us out, Amy. Nice and slow. Let them see us coming. The ironclad began to move. Deep within the ship, massive engines hummed to life, pushing the enormous vessel forward. It emerged from behind the moon, entering open space where alien sensors could finally detect it. On the Eternal Blade, Dromo stared at his sensor display with growing confusion. The readings made no sense. He ran the scan again, then a third time, but the results were the same. Commander, he said, his voice uncertain, a human vessel has appeared from behind their moon. But the readings... There must be something wrong with our sensors. Vexari walked over to look at the display. What is the problem? The mass signature, Commander. According to our sensors, the human ship is... It is larger than our entire fleet combined. Vexari stared at him. That is impossible. Run a diagnostic on the sensor array. I already did, Commander. Twice. The sensors are working correctly. A cold feeling began to form in Vexari's stomach. He had studied human technology. Their ships were supposed to be small and primitive. Their weapons were supposed to be weak. Everything in the intelligence reports said that humanity was an easy target. Put the visual on the main screen, he ordered. I want to see this ship with my own eyes. The main view screen flickered and then displayed a magnified image of the approaching vessel. For a long moment, no one on the bridge spoke. No one even moved. The ironclad filled the screen. It was a monster of metal and weapons, so large that it seemed impossible. Its hull was covered in thick armor plating that looked like it could survive the heart of a star. Weapons batteries lined its sides, row after row of massive cannons that pointed in every direction. The ship was shaped like a giant arrowhead, built for war and nothing else. By the ancestors, someone whispered. What is that thing? Vexari could not answer. His mind was struggling to process what he was seeing. The Kethrani had conquered 32 species. They had faced many weapons and many ships, but they had never seen anything like this. Commander, Dromo said, his voice shaking, I am reading the ship's dimensions. It is 17 kilometers long. The armor plating is over 300 meters thick in some places. The power output is higher than our entire homeworld. That cannot be right, Vexari said, but even as he spoke, he knew it was true. The evidence was right there on the screen, impossible to deny. On the ironclad, Lisa watched the sensor data with satisfaction. They see us now, Captain. I am detecting significant power fluctuations across the alien fleet. I think they are frightened. Ben nodded slowly. Good. That is exactly what we want. Open a channel to the alien fleet. All frequencies. The communications officer, a young man named Danny Webb, worked his console. Channel open, Captain. Ben stood up from his chair and faced the view screen. When he spoke, his voice was calm and steady, like he was discussing the weather instead of threatening an entire alien armada. Kethrani Dominion vessels. This is Captain Ben Harris of the United Earth Navy warship Ironclad. You have entered sovereign human space without authorization. You will power down your weapons and withdraw from this system immediately. You have 30 standard minutes to begin your retreat. There will be no second warning. He made a cunning gesture, and Danny closed the channel. Lisa raised an eyebrow. 30 minutes? That is generous. I want them to have time to really look at us, Ben replied. I want them to scan our ship and understand exactly what they are facing. Fear takes time to sink in. On the Eternal Blade, Vexari listened to the human's message with a mix of disbelief and anger. How dare they? How dare this primitive species threaten the Kethrani dominion? He had 47 warships. He had conquered entire civilizations. But even as his anger burned, a quieter voice in his mind was asking uncomfortable questions. Why were the humans so calm? Why did they send only one ship, unless they were absolutely certain that one ship was enough? Commander, Dromos said quietly, I have completed a full analysis of the human vessel. Their weapons, I have never seen anything like them. They have magnetic accelerators that can fire metal projectiles at 15% of light speed. They have focused energy weapons that our shields cannot stop. They have missile systems with over 40,000 individual warheads. 40,000? Vexari repeated. Yes, Commander. And that is just what we can detect. There may be more weapons hidden inside the hull. Vexari looked at the screen, at the massive human warship that hung in space like a predator watching its prey. For the first time in his long career, he felt something he had never felt before. He felt afraid. 25 minutes remaining, the human captain's voice announced over the open channel. Around the bridge, officers looked at each other with wide eyes. Some of them were starting to shake. The confidence that had filled the fleet just hours ago was gone, replaced by a cold and growing terror. And the ironclad just waited, patient and silent, like a mountain that knew it could not be moved. Vexari stood alone in his private quarters, staring at a data screen filled with information about humanity. He had read these files many times before, but now he was reading them with new eyes. Now he was looking for something he had missed. The reports described humans as a young species. They had only discovered faster-than-light travel 60 cycles ago. Their planet was small, mostly covered in water. Their bodies were soft and fragile compared to Kethrani warriors. On paper, they looked like easy prey, but there were other details in the reports. Details that Vexari had ignored before because they did not seem important. Humans have been waging war against each other for over 10,000 years. Long before they reached the stars, they have been fighting. They fought over land. They fought over resources. They fought over ideas and beliefs. War was woven into their history like threads in a cloth. They had created weapons of unimaginable destruction. They had split atoms to create explosions that could destroy entire cities. They had engineered diseases that could kill millions. They had built machines that could fly through the sky and rain fire on their enemies. They had done all of this not to fight aliens, but to fight themselves. Vexari felt a chill run through him as he read about something called the Cold War. For decades, two human nations had pointed thousands of nuclear weapons at each other. Each side had enough power to destroy their entire planet many times over. They had lived with this threat every single day, and somehow they had survived. What kind of species did that? What kind of minds could create such weapons and then live under their shadow? A message appeared on his screen. It was from his intelligence officer, asking for permission to enter. Vexari granted it. The officer, a nervous female named Kiravine, stepped into the room. Commander, I have gathered additional information about the human ship as you requested. Tell me, Vexari said. The vessel they call Ironclad appears to be what humans call a dreadnought. It is designed specifically for fleet battles. According to their own records, which we intercepted years ago, this class of ship was designed with one purpose in mind. She paused. To ensure that no enemy fleet could ever threaten Earth. One ship to defeat any fleet, Vexari said quietly. They actually built a ship to do that. Yes, Commander. And there is more. This ship has been operational for 5 years. During that time, humans have continued building. Our intelligence suggests they have at least 6 more vessels of similar size in various stages of construction. Vexari closed his eyes. 6 more ships like that monster outside. The thought was terrifying. On the ironclad, Captain Ben Harris walked through the lower decks, checking on his crew. Morale was high. Everyone knew what was at stake, and everyone believed in their mission. He stopped at the main weapons control center, where his tactical officer, Derek Cole, was running final checks on the targeting systems. Derek was Lisa's younger brother, and like his sister, he was excellent at his job. "How are we looking?" Ben asked. "All weapons are ready, Captain," Derek replied. Rail batteries are charged and loaded. Plasma lances are at full power. Missile pods are armed. He smiled slightly. "To be honest, sir, I almost hope they do something stupid. I would love the ship can really do." "Let us hope it does not come to that," Ben said. "The goal is to scare them, not to kill them. Dead enemies cannot spread the word about what happened here." Derek nodded, understanding. "You want survivors. You want them to go home and tell everyone what they saw." "Exactly. Fear spreads faster than weapons fire. If we do this right, we will not have to fight a war. Everyone will be too afraid to start one." Ben continued his walk, eventually reaching the observation deck. This was a large room with windows that looked out at the stars. A few off-duty crew members were there, watching the distant alien fleet. Lisa found him there a few minutes later. "Captain, we have 15 minutes remaining until the deadline. Any movement from the aliens?" "Not yet. They are still holding position, but I am detecting increased communication between their ships. They are talking to each other a lot, arguing about what to do," Ben guessed. "Some of them want to fight. Some of them want to run. And none of them know which choice is right. What do you think they will choose?" Ben looked out at the stars. "I think they will run. They came here expecting to crush a weak enemy. Instead, they found something they cannot understand. Every instinct they have is telling them to get away from us. And if they attack?" Ben's expression hardened. "Then we destroy them. Every last ship. We leave nothing but debris and a message for the rest of the galaxy." He shook his head. "But I do not think it will come to that. The Kethrani have survived for thousands of years by knowing when to fight and when to retreat. They did not build an empire by being stupid." Back on the Eternal Blade, Vexari had called an emergency council with all his ship captains. Their holographic images filled his private chamber, flickering slightly due to the distance. "We must attack," Captain Meyertek insisted. He was one of the most aggressive commanders in the fleet. "We are Kethrani warriors. We do not run from a single ship, no matter how large." "Look at the sensor data," another captain replied angrily. "That ship's main weapon can destroy a planet." "A planet? What do you think it will do to us?" "You speak like a coward." "I speak like someone who wants to live." Vexari raised all 4 of his hands, demanding silence. The captain stopped arguing and looked at him. "I have studied humans," Vexari said slowly. "I have read everything our intelligence services have gathered about them. And I have realized something important. We made a terrible mistake." "What mistake, Commander?" Someone asked. "We believed they were weak because they were divided. We thought their constant wars were a sign of stupidity. But we were wrong." Vexari's voice dropped lower. "Their wars made them strong. Every conflict taught them new ways to kill. Every battle forced them to create better weapons. They spent 10,000 years perfecting the art of destruction." He looked at each captain's image in turn. "And then they stopped fighting each other. They united. They combined all of that knowledge, all of that experience, all of that fury. and they pointed it outward. The chamber was silent. "That ship out there," Vexari continued, "is not a weapon of war. It is a warning. It is humanity telling the galaxy what they are capable of. And if we attack it, if we give them a reason to use that power against us." He did not finish the sentence. He did not need to. 10 minutes remaining, the human captain's voice announced, cold and patient. One by one, the holographic captains began to nod. Even Meyer Tech, fierce and proud as he was, could not argue with the truth that was staring them all in the face. The hunt was over. They were no longer the predators. They were the prey. The bridge of the Eternal Blade had grown very quiet. Officers sat at their stations, but no one was working. They were all watching the main view screen, where the massive human warship hung in space like a dark moon. Every few minutes, the human captain's calm voice would announce how much time remained. 5 minutes remaining. Vexari stood at the center of his bridge, his forearms hanging at his sides. He had made his decision. Now he had to find the courage to carry it out. "Drelmos," he said, "open a channel to the human vessel." His tactical officer looked at him with wide eyes. "Commander, are we surrendering?" "We are requesting terms," Vexari corrected. "There is a difference." But they both knew the truth. The Gethrani Dominion, conquerors of 32 species, was about to admit defeat without firing a single shot. Drelmos opened the channel. "Channel open, Commander." Vexari straightened his back and tried to keep his voice steady. "Human Captain, this is Commander Vexari of the Gethrani Dominion. We request terms for a peaceful withdrawal." There was a pause that seemed to last forever. Then the human captain's voice responded, calm as ever. "Commander Vexari, this is Captain Ben Harris. I am prepared to discuss terms. However, I must be clear about something first. Peaceful withdrawal is no longer your only option. You came here to conquer our world. You threatened our people. Those actions have consequences." Vexari felt his heart speeding faster. "What? What kind of consequences?" "That depends on what happens in the next few minutes. Power down your weapons and shields. All ships. Do it now, and we can talk. Fail to do so, and this conversation is over." On the Ironclad's bridge, Lisa watched the alien fleet carefully. "Captain, I am detecting power fluctuations across multiple vessels. Some are powering down weapons. Others are not." Ben nodded. He had expected some resistance. In any group, there were always those who refused to accept reality. "Which ships are refusing?" he asked. 7 vessels on the left flank. "They appear to be maintaining full combat readiness. Flag them for priority targeting. If they make any aggressive moves, they die first." Derek's voice came over the intercom from the weapons center. "Captain, I have solutions on all 7 targets. On your command, I can eliminate them in under 10 seconds. Hold your fire," Ben ordered. "Give them a chance to come to their senses." On the Eternal Blade, Vexari was receiving frantic messages from the 7 ships that had refused to power down. Captain Meyertek's face appeared on his personal screen, twisted with anger. "This is madness, Commander. You are surrendering to primitives. Our ancestors would be ashamed. Our ancestors never faced a ship that could destroy our homeworld," Vexari replied coldly. "Power down your weapons, Meyertek. That is an order. I refuse. I would rather die with honor than... Then you will die, and everyone on your ship will die with you." Vexari's voice cut like a blade. "And your death will change nothing. The humans will still win. Your honor will mean nothing because there will be no one left to remember it." Meyertek stared at him, his rage slowly fading into something else. Fear. It was fear. "Power down your weapons?" Vexari repeated, more softly this time. Live today, Martek. Live, and perhaps one day we can find a way to restore our pride. But not like this. Not by throwing our lives away against an enemy we cannot defeat. For a long moment, Martek said nothing. Then, slowly, he nodded. His image disappeared from the screen. On the ironclad, Lisa watched her display with growing surprise. Captain, all 7 holdout ships are powering down. The entire fleet has disabled weapons and shields. Ben allowed himself a small breath of relief. Good. It seems their commander is smarter than I expected. What now, sir? Now we show them that humanity is not just powerful. We are also reasonable. He pressed a button on his chair. Commander Vexari, your cooperation is noted. You will order your fleet to form a single column and proceed to the edge of human space. My ship will escort you. Once you have crossed the border, you will be free to return to your territory. Vexari's reply came quickly. Understood, Captain. And what of the terms you mentioned? We will discuss those after you have left our system. For now, you will follow my instructions exactly. Any deviation will be treated as a hostile act. Am I clear? You are clear, Captain. The next few hours passed slowly. The Kethrani fleet reformed into a long single line, with the Eternal Blade at the front. Behind them, the Ironclad followed like a giant shadow, close enough to remind them of what would happen if they tried anything foolish. Amy guided the massive ship with careful precision, matching the slower speed of the alien vessels. It was strange, she thought, to be escorting an enemy fleet instead of destroying it. But she understood the strategy. Dead enemies created martyrs and demanded revenge. Living enemies, humiliated and afraid, spread fear. Ben spent most of the journey on the bridge, watching the tactical display. Lisa stayed by his side, as she always did. Do you think this is really over? She asked quietly. This part is over, Ben replied. But what comes next will be more complicated. The Kethrani Dominion rules 1,000 star systems. They have allies and vassals and trade partners. Word of what happened here will spread to all of them. Will they come back? Try again with a larger fleet? Ben shook his head. No. They have seen what one human ship can do. They will not risk finding out what happens when we send more. He paused. But others might try. Other species that think we got lucky, or that our ship was a trick, or that they are somehow different from the Kethrani. Then, we will show them the same thing we showed these aliens. Yes, as many times as we need to. Until the entire galaxy understands that humanity is not to be challenged. The fleet reached the edge of human space after 8 hours of travel. The Kethrani ship stopped at the invisible border, waiting for permission to leave. Ben opened a channel. Commander Vexari, you may proceed. But before you go, I want you to understand something. We did not seek this conflict. We did not ask to be threatened or invaded. We simply refused to be conquered. I understand, Captain, Vexari replied. His voice sounded tired and old. Go home, Commander. Tell your leaders what you saw. Tell your people. Tell everyone. Ben's voice hardened. And make sure they understand that the next fleet that enters our space will not be escorted home. There will be no warnings, no negotiations, no mercy. Just destruction. There was a long pause. Then Vexari spoke one final time. I understand, Captain. I believe. I believe many in the galaxy will soon understand as well. The Kethrani fleet jumped to faster-than-light speed, disappearing in a flash of light. They were gone. On the Ironclad's bridge, the crew let out a collective breath they had been holding. Some officers smiled. Others wiped their eyes. They had done it. They had faced an invasion fleet and turned it away without firing a single shot. Ben sat back in his chair and closed his eyes. The hard part was over, but he knew this was only the beginning. 3 days after the Kethrani fleet retreated, a diplomatic shuttle arrived at Earth. Commander Vexari was aboard, along with 2 advisors from the Dominion's ruling council. They had come to negotiate a formal treaty. Captain Ben Harris met them at the shuttle bay of the Ironclad. It seemed fitting that the negotiations would take place on the very ship that had ended the invasion. Vexari stepped off the shuttle and looked around at the massive hangar, his dark eyes taking in everything. This bay alone is larger than my flagship, he said quietly. We built the Ironclad to hold an entire support fleet inside it, Ben explained. Fighters, bombers, supply ships. Everything needed for a long campaign far from home. Vexari nodded slowly. Every new detail about this ship made him more certain that surrendering had been the right choice. He had reviewed the sensor data 100 times since the retreat. The humans had not been bluffing about anything. Their ship was exactly as powerful as they had claimed. Ben led the aliens through the corridors toward the diplomatic conference room. Along the way, they passed human marines standing at attention. Vexari noticed that even the smallest human soldiers were heavily armed and moved with the easy confidence of experienced warriors. Your soldiers, Vexari said. They have seen combat? Most of them served in the Unification Wars, Ben replied. Before Earth united, there were several decades of conflict. Many of our current military leaders earned their experience during that time, fighting each other. Yes, it was not our proudest period, but it taught us valuable lessons. They reached the conference room, a large space with a long table and comfortable chairs. Admiral Katie Morgan was already waiting, along with several human diplomats and military advisors. Lisa Cole stood near the wall, ready to assist if needed. Vexari took his seat across from the Admiral. For a moment, they simply looked at each other. Human and Kethrani, predator and prey, though Vexari was no longer sure which was which. Commander, Katie began, let me be direct with you. Humanity has no interest in becoming an enemy of the Kethrani Dominion. We have no desire to invade your territory or conquer your people. All we want is to be left alone to develop in peace. And yet you built that ship, Vexari replied, gesturing vaguely toward the walls around them. This is not a vessel built by a peaceful species. Katie smiled thinly. We built this ship because we knew species like yours existed. We knew that the galaxy contains powers that conquer and enslave the weak. We refused to be weak. You deceived us, Vexari said. For decades, you appeared primitive. You let us believe you were an easy target. We did, and I make no apology for it. Katie's voice was calm but firm. You came to our system with 47 warships, planning to enslave our people. If we had shown our true strength earlier, you might have come with 400 ships instead. The deception was necessary. Vexari could not argue with her logic. In her position, he would have done the same thing. The negotiations continued for several hours. The terms of the treaty were surprisingly generous. Humanity asked for no territory, no tribute, no vassalage. They wanted only 3 things: formal recognition of human sovereignty over the Sol system and all future human colonies, an agreement of mutual non-aggression, and the establishment of trade and diplomatic relations. You could ask for much more, Vexari said as he reviewed the document. You have us at your mercy. Why are you being so reasonable? Katie leaned forward. Because we understand something that you do not, Commander. Empire is a trap. The more you conquer, the more enemies you create. The more species you enslave, the more resources you must spend keeping them in chains. Eventually, the empire collapses under its own weight. She shook her head. Humanity has no interest in ruling the galaxy. We want trading partners, not subjects. We want allies, not slaves. We are offering you the chance to be the first. Vexari studied her face, looking for any sign of deception. He found none. The human admiral meant exactly what she said. There is one more thing I need to know, Vexari said slowly. Your captain told me that this ship, that it is not your most powerful vessel. He said it was simply the one you were willing to let us see. Katie and Ben exchanged a glance. Something passed between them, some unspoken communication that Vexari could not read. That is correct, Katie finally said. The ironclad is impressive, but it was designed 30 years ago. Our technology has advanced considerably since then. How much more powerful are your newer ships? Katie smiled that thin smile again. I think that information should remain classified, Commander. Let us just say that the ironclad was built to fight fleets. Our newer vessels were built to fight something much larger. Vexari felt a chill run down his spine. He did not ask any more questions. The treaty was signed 1 hour later. Vexari pressed his seal into the document, making it official. The Kithrani Dominion and humanity were now at peace. As Vexari walked back to his shuttle, Ben accompanied him. They stopped at a viewport that looked out at the stars. Commander, Ben said, I want you to know that I respect you. You had the wisdom to see the situation clearly and the courage to make a difficult decision. Not many leaders would have done what you did. I surrendered without a fight, Vexari replied bitterly. Many in my government will never forgive me for that. You saved 47 ships and over 12,000 lives. You prevented a war that your people could not win. That is not weakness. That is strength. Vexari looked at the human captain. He was beginning to understand why humanity was so dangerous. It was not just their weapons or their ships. It was the way they thought. They were practical and ruthless when they needed to be, but also capable of mercy and reason. What will happen now? Vexari asked. To your people, I mean. Will you continue to hide your strength from the galaxy? Ben shook his head. No, the time for hiding is over. Word of what happened here will spread. Other species will learn about us. Some will want to be our friends. Others will see us as a threat. We will deal with each as they come. And if someone else tries what we tried? If another fleet comes to conquer Earth? Ben's expression hardened. Then we will destroy them, just as we would have destroyed you. Humanity will not be conquered, Commander. Not ever. We have spent 10,000 years learning how to survive. Nothing in this galaxy will undo that. Vexari nodded slowly. He understood now. Humanity was not a young species taking its first steps into the stars. They were an old species, ancient in their knowledge of war and survival, finally ready to take their place among the powers of the galaxy. He boarded his shuttle and left the human ship behind. As he traveled back to Kithrani space, he composed a report for his government. It would be his final act as a military commander. He was sure he would be removed from his position once he returned home, but his report would be read and remembered. And shared in it, he wrote a simple warning. Do not fight the humans. Do not threaten them. Do not give them a reason to turn their weapons against us. They are not prey. They are not victims. They are something else entirely. Something we should never have awakened. Across the galaxy, in the months that followed, that report spread. Species after species read the words of the defeated Kithrani commander. They studied the images of the massive human warship. They reviewed the sensor data that showed weapons capable of cracking planets. And one by one, they came to the same conclusion that Vexari had reached in those terrible moments outside Jupiter. Humanity was not to be challenged. They were to be respected. Perhaps, eventually, they could be befriended. But never, ever conquered. The galaxy had found its new power. And for the first time in a very long time, the stars felt a little safer.